tuning in to TTV. I'm your host, Toya, and today is Wisdom Wednesday, and we are going over the Tao Te Ching. Okay, so this is a version that I use. Now, what the Tao Te Ching is it's a book of collections of works of basically old wise Chinese proverbs. So it's just bits of wisdom that they have that they give for you in verses to pretty much bring some wisdom to your life, to bring awareness to you and how you look at your life. And what's always funny and fascinating is how these parables, these verses, how much they relate to our world even today. And this was written like 4,500 years ago, so almost 5,000 years ago, and we're still dealing with the same things as they were back then. So that's always been fascinating for to me, especially about this as I present this to you guys and we go over it. But before I get started, please like, subscribe, and share, because if you get something out of this content, chances are someone else will as well. And then the other thing is drop a comment below. Tell me what you think, what you got out of this. All right, and we're gonna get started. So this week is called verse 22, celebrate paradox. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read it and then read the whole thing, and then I'll go section by section and give you my opinion of it. And then, like I said, I encourage you to drop a comment below to tell me what your opinion is. Okay, so let's get started. So celebrate paradox. And I apologize too for the background noise if you hear it. It's getting warmer as they pull off. It's getting warmer, so I have my window open and people, it gets noisy sometimes. But in any case, let's get started. So, no thing remains itself. Each prepares the path to its opposite. To be ready for wholeness, first be fragmented. To be ready for righteousness, first be wrong. To be ready for fullness, first be empty. To be ready for renewal, first be worn. To be ready for success, first fail. To be ready for doubt, first be certain. Because the wise observe the world through the great integrity, they know that they are not knowledgeable. Because they are not perceived only through their perceptions, they do not judge the right and that wrong. But because they do not delight in boasting, they are appreciated. Because they do not announce their superiority, they are acclaimed. Because they never compete, no one can compete with them. Verily, fragmentation prepares the path to wholeness, the mother of all origin and realizations. Okay, so that's the whole thing. So let's get into breaking it down. I like how they spelled the no thing, because it's NO-THING. So instead of nothing, it's no thing. But no thing remains itself. Each prepares the path to its opposite. That's, to me, just means balance. Like we live to die. We die to live. It's a continuation. We become a child. We go from being a child to being a grown up, and then start that process back to becoming a child. If you look at elders and how they age and they start to lose their mind, and how childlike they become as they get older. So we go from one thing to come to another one just to end up back. But it says no, nothing remains itself. Each prepares the path to its opposite. So every day we're different. Like I'm different from what I was yesterday, let alone what I was 3 months ago, 2 years ago. I'm a different person. And I'm going through this life striving to be the best version of myself that I can be. Okay? And that's what that is talking about. And it says to be ready for wholeness, first be fragmented. Okay? Well, you have to know what it feels like to be broken, to be in pieces, to know what it feels like to be whole. It says to be ready for rightness, you have to be wrong. Well, the same thing. In order to know what it feels to be righted, you have to be wrong. Otherwise, you're just going through life and you have no ideal. You have nothing to compare it to. And the same goes for the rest of this. To be ready for fullness, you first have to be empty. To be ready for renewal, you first have to be worn out. To be ready for success, you first have to fail. Now, this is one that really gets a lot of people. We stop and we think about our failures and how, they define us and they really make up our life and make up who we are, when the truth is it was just an event that happened. And in order for you to understand and be ready for success, you have to go through those failures. You have to go through and put in that work to know what it feels like to be on the bottom, so that when you are on the top, you can appreciate it. Okay? To be ready for doubt, you must first be certain. We doubt ourselves all the time. And, and to go through that doubt, like all of this, all of these scenarios that they just gave are basically just ways, in order for you to be the best version of yourself, in order to be the person that you were sent here to be, you have to know what it's like to be the opposite of it. You have to know what it's like to go through the negative end of it, because you can't have negative without positive, positive without negative. It balances itself out. And so you have to have these experiences in order to balance out the positive part of it that is to come. But as long as you're focused, as long as you keep up, and as long as you understand and keep going and keep pushing through, then you're going to get to that positive side of it. You're not going to stay in the negative. You're going to move to the positive. So you'll be able to have that success. You'll know what it's like to be whole. You'll know what it's like to be righteousness and have that fullness. You'll know what it feels like to be renewed. You'll know what it feels like to be certain. So you'll have those positive experiences, but in order to get them, you gotta go through the negative stuff. You gotta go through the stuff that we consider bad, where really it's just lessons to keep pushing us forward. That's really all it is. Because the wise observe the world through the great integrity, they know they are not knowledgeable. Because they do not perceive only through their perceptions, they do not judge this right and that wrong. Because they do not delight in boasting, they are appreciated. Because they do not announce their superiority, they are acclaimed. And because they never compete, no one can compete with them. So, before I get into this, let me explain, in case you haven't watched one of these before. The great integrity is what we would call God or Source or Spirit or Yahweh, Allah, whatever name you give that energy, that creation, that creator. Rather, not creation, but creator. That energy that you give to that creator. That's what they're talking about when they speak on the great integrity. Okay, so the great integrity will be what we call, like I said, God, Yahweh, Source, Jehovah, Allah, Buddha, whatever name you give it. That's what the great integrity is. And so, because the wise observe the world through the eyes of God, basically, they know they are not knowledgeable. The more you learn, the more you know you don't know. That is just a fact of life. And I wish some of these young people would understand that. But we were all young once before. So you young, you think you know everything. But really you don't. You don't know anything. You know a fraction of the whole thing. Just a tiny piece. And so that's what this is talking about. The closer you get to God, the more you realize you don't understand. At least not in this human form. Because they do not perceive only through their perceptions, they do not judge this right and that wrong. So, perceptions are your breakdown or your understanding of something that happened, or experience, a situation, an understanding, whatever you want to call it. That's what a perception is. But it's from your point of view. It's how you see, how you feel, how you interpret whatever it is that you're looking at. And when they're saying this, that they do not interpret, basically is what they're saying, they do not interpret through their own perceptions. Therefore, they do not judge. Because it's like they're saying, until you walk in somebody else's shoes, it's hard to judge who that person is or what they did or the choices that they made, because you've never walked a step in their shoes. You can imagine and you can have your own perception of what it would be like based off of your own experiences and your own knowledge, but you never know what it's like for that person, because the way you're perceiving it is not necessarily the way they're perceiving it. So I'll give you an example on that. There's these twins. It was a story that one of my mentors told me. Told the group. He said there's these two twins, and I don't know where he got the story, so if you know, I apologize. But anyway, there's these two twins whose father was abusive, and alcoholic, and he would be really abusive when he was drunk. And so the two grew up, and later on in life, they went to him. They asked the one twin, who ended up basically being abusive to his wife and, not succeeding very far, and ended up being an alcoholic. And they said, well, why do you think you turned out this way? He said, well, look at my father. I had no choice. So they went to the second twin. The second twin was the one who became a doctor and really had a successful life and was really doing things with him and didn't touch alcohol at all. And they went to him and said, why do you think you're so successful? And he said, well, look at my father. I had no choice. So that's what perception is. And that's what we're talking about in this. When you have your own perception of how things are going, then that's what you're going to bring to the table, and that's what you're going to put off on somebody else. So you can't really judge somebody as doing something right or wrong because you never took a step in their shoes. You don't know what their perception is of that situation. Um, and it says now that because they do not delight in boasting, they are appreciated. Don't nobody want to be around anybody boasting about how great and wonderful they are. Don't nobody want to be around that. And to be honest with you, if that's what you are, you don't need to boast about it. You don't need to tell people about it. People will know. And I use in my own, when I'm talking to people, I use this one phrase. A man doesn't have to tell you he's a man. His actions are going to show you. A woman doesn't have to tell you she's a woman. Her actions are going to show it. So for somebody to sit around boasting about it, yeah, I'm a man, I do this, I do that, or I'm a woman, I do this, I do that. No, you're not. You not. Because if you were what you say you were, you wouldn't have to speak on it. You wouldn't have to say anything on it at all. And that's what they're talking about. They do not delight in boasting, and therefore they are appreciated. So I don't have to sit here and tell you what to do, or tell you how you should be, or tell you how wonderful I am. I'm going to just tell you, just be me. Okay? And most people appreciate that. Because they do not announce their superiority, they are acclaimed. Well, I don't care how enlightened, awakened, spiritual ascension, whatever you want to call it, that I get. I will tell you, there is no superiority in it because everybody is capable of doing everything that anybody else is doing. And if you feel that you are not able to do what somebody else is doing, that's because of your perception. Now, if somebody is sitting boasting about what they do and how better they are than you, then really that's their own insecurities, because they really feel like they're not better than somebody else. And so when I see this, please do not, because they do not announce their superiority, they are acclaimed. People want to be around people who are just people. That's basically what this all boils down to. No one wants to be around anybody boasting and raising themselves up and, oh, I'm so much better than you. Look what I can do. Look what I did. Look what nobody wants to be around that. And so when you can actually sit down and have a conversation with somebody, no matter whether you're smarter than them, you're wiser than them, you have more experience than them, no matter what it is you have in your life, when you can sit down and you can have a conversation with anybody and that person walks away feeling good about themselves, that's the true blessing. That's the true wisdom. And that's what they're saying about this. Same thing with the competing. If I'm not competing with you, then you can continue to try to make me compete. But if I'm not competing with you, at the end of the day, you're going to quit. Why? Because, I'm not participating in that. You want to go and rush and do your thing. But I'm going to be me. Because that's what that says. Verily, fragmentation prepares the path to wholeness. The mother of all origins and realization. Verily, fragmentation prepares the path to wholeness, the mother of all origin and realization. Okay, so pieces of us prepare the path to wholeness. Yep. So when you're broken and you're fragmented and there's these different pieces of you, once they become whole, then that's when you move to the mother of all origins and realization, which is the great integrity, or God, or source, whatever you want to call it. That's what that is. So again, this was Celebrate Paradox, verse 22, and this was my interpretation of it, and what I got of it. I think I told you guys before, Wayne Dowry would say that he would go through this and he would basically write an essay on each one of these. So that was my interpretation. Like I said, drop a comment below. Tell me what you think. What was your interpretation of it? What did you think of it? Okay. Next week is sincerity. I like sincerity. I like it. Most people do. But we'll get into that next week. Like I said, if you got anything out of this, please subscribe, and share. Because if you got something out of it, chances are someone else will as well. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.